Another strong weekend for Saluki softball at home, sweeping the weekend series with the Drake Bulldogs as head coach Jen Sewell joins us before they hit the road this weekend in Chicago to continue Missouri Valley Conference play. Coach Sewell, you're making this thing look really easy, or I should say your team's making it look really easy,
I think
right?
they're doing the best job. I think the coaching staff is along for the ride from what I can tell. So.
13 wins in a row. And again, we talked about it last week. Sustaining success is the hardest thing to do. But this weekend, I mean, you look at some of your scores, I think your scores can be deceiving a little bit in how competitive the series was with Drake, specifically your game on Friday.
Yeah, I think Drake is, I think we talked about this last week, and another really, I think they came in 10-10, maybe 11-10, really competitive squad. I had them, I think they got picked way lower than what they should be appreciated for. They are very athletic. They pitched very consistently. Hit the ball hard. I think they were leading the league in a couple of offensive categories, and they showed that, made good adjustments all weekend long, and we had to really counter them and try to figure out, you know, by game 2 and game 3 what we were going to do. I thought the game 2 starter was excellent against us. She did a great job. And, you know, Sundays are always about, you know, who you've seen all the cards, so lay them out there and let's play ball. So.
Don't want to say or answer for you what maybe a huge positive was or the biggest positive was from the weekend, but I'm sure one of them had to be the play of Jackie Liss.
Yep.
You know, we talked about Jackie, how maybe early on in the year had to really adjust to how teams were attacking her. Do you see her starting to turn and really starting to maybe play her best on the year?
Yes, yeah, you can see her as she was getting reps to, you know, certain areas. I think they were pitching very opposite to her. We had moved her down just to let her try to see some pitches, and then have slowly been working her back up to where we want to see her, which is when she's not getting pitched to, you have to put her in pretty much the 2 spot and give her a chance to come up 4 or 5 times in a game, and she's back sort of doing that. Even her outs now are hard outs, and that's what you want to see, and playing really good defense. Snagged a couple balls this weekend that really helped out the Saturday and Sunday starters.
Defensively, that was some area early where maybe people are like, man, the errors number were high. They were
Yep.
a little high, which
Yep.
we talked about the surfaces and everything you've been playing on. Has the defense now gotten to where you feel like, hey, this is where we're at, and that was just a small blimp on the radar earlier
Yeah,
this
I
year.
thought Friday and Saturday were really good defensively. Sunday didn't show up defensively. The wind was blowing at 100 miles an hour, and we did not get enough water in that field, and we clanked probably 6 balls off people's bodies. So it was one of those things where we were sort of goaling down some ground balls on that field, but it happens on a lot of fields. I think defensively we're starting to settle into a lineup card a little bit more. We're not rotating quite as much. That helps players know that, hey, I'm going out there. I'm going to be standing next to her pretty much every game. And, you know, I think the more we played, the better we got. We talked about, you know, the 9 or 10 games in so many days. That helps. And then now we get to go back and sort of, we probably have a list in our head of things we've got to work on. And they're little things defensively, not big things, whereas before we were just catching and throwing and making sure we had those things down coming out of the indoor. But I thought we just settled in over the past few weeks.
Never want to say that you know, you needed something like this to happen, but to win your last game in the series against Drake, and I know that Mattia didn't have to go in the circle at all. Is that even more of a positive to finish out a series, to win a series, and arguably your best arm didn't even need to step into the circle?
Yeah, I think the goal was to leave this weekend with Hannah Hockerman and Maddie getting a lot of innings. People are going to overlook Hannah Hockerman's start. That was a great start. We wanted her to go out and go one time through. She did that. She gave up a couple hits. They didn't hurt us. Maddie did the same thing. Threw a really good game, I thought, both Saturday and Sunday. And just letting them settle into the conference time. Knowing that you always have an ace in your pocket that you can pull out at any time is a pretty good feeling. But the even better feeling is that Hannah can go, Maddie can go. Those were good innings. I think I was most impressed by just throwing strikes and being around the zone, and threw some big pitches and some big moments, and didn't get frustrated at all.
Do you like, again, it's March, so there's still ways to go here this month,
Sure.
and obviously to go in April, then once you get into May, but pitching depth is so huge
Yeah.
and can be very important. Where do you feel your depth is right now at this point in the season?
Yeah, I think Hannah's come by the farthest, just in the trust factor of how many times she could probably go through the lineup. That's in part to Katie Griffith, just spending a lot of time with her, just working out some pitches and some different ideas for how to pitch to hitters. Maddie went through sort of a wholesale change about 3 weeks ago. We changed a little bit of her windup to sort of smooth her out, and I think she's still making adjustments, but I think she likes it. I think you're really seeing her feel comfortable. The goal would be to really use all three in a series, and I think we proved that we could do that against a very qualified offensive club. And I think it's just up to us to make the right move at the right time when we sense that, they're going to turn the lineup over that third, fourth time. So we've been doing it a couple different ways. We had complete games earlier in the year, and then we've had some show a team one-time look and then bring sort of a long closer in, which I like too. So I felt like we've pitched all the different ways going into late March, and we can do whatever combination we need. Where, last year by this time we were getting ready to narrow down to two, and that no one wants to live that life. So, but, still in there is Maddie Eberly, the horse that took us through last year, and I think that's important. But keeping her healthy, getting Hannah time, and then always having Maddie ready to go.
Well, let's talk about Maddie. I feel like she's performing at a pace that now it's like you're getting used to it and numb to it. And it's almost like, well, she pitched well. Like, everybody knows that.
Right.
But I still think it's important to talk about what she is doing. What are your weekly conversations, or not even weekly, what are your daily conversations like with her? And the biggest thing you try to preach with her to just stay on pace, to keep going, to never settle, and for her to just continue what's been a spectacular freshman year.
It's funny because the conversations, her and Katie work together a lot, sort of pre-practice or post-practice whenever they're bullpen scheduled. But she never comes into her bullpen saying, "I'm comfortable with what I did. I don't want to do anything else." She always has thought of an idea like, "Hey, I want to work on my rise ball here. I didn't hit this spot as well as I would like to," or "Here's my plan for this week." That's a very mature way to come to a Tuesday practice after a weekend series like she had. And they sort of are always crafting that 1% that Maddie wants to get a little bit better. And a lot of times her sister will even say, "Hey, I think we missed here. Let's go work on this." So the conversations, they're very little, but it's there. It's just normally between the two of them sort of working out a location or a pitch, or they'll be tinkering with something. And her real goal right now is to show a little bit of a different look every weekend, and I think they're doing that without going outside of the scope of what she can do.
You mentioned Coach Griffith. This is her first season here, and one of the areas that, Coach Schuller, you deserve, no question, a ton of credit for your program and where it's at and what it's done and the success that you have, but you can't do it alone.
Mm-mm.
What has she done, not just with Maddie, but the whole staff? Where do you feel her presence has helped a ton with the staff?
I think she's one of those coaches, much like MJ, who sort of bonds that group into a bullpen. I think a lot of times bullpens get competitive with each other, and the one or the two maybe don't get along. I want to be the star, you want to be the star. I think what she does is creates an environment where those pieces of those puzzles work together to make one big puzzle. And she includes the catching in that, and that's very unique because a lot of times I was a catcher and we would get left off to the side, like she'll be paying attention to that whole bullpen. And it's funny, I think there was a picture of them from Central Arkansas on our Twitter page or X page, and it really showed that, like, they have a book club and they go out for coffee, and it's hilarious because they're like, like a little housewives club out there. But they're business too, and it's super impressive the work that they get done in a short amount of time. And she was a great pitcher in her own right, and she played for a very, very tough SEC coach in Lou Champer-Harris, and Lou was tiny but mighty. So I think Katie knows the toughness factor, so she can sort of bond that bullpen, but then remind them, hey, you chose the number one position on the lineup card. You have to be mentally ready to go in for your start or your close or your long relief or whatever. And I think she talks them through that process. And so they're ready, not just physically, but mentally.
Emotions of hitting a grand slam are so huge. And, of course, Anna Carter on Sunday, which what was great to me was seeing the social media part of it. And I think it was you that tweeted out about that. It was her mom clapping in the video after the grand slam. But that's a huge part of that game. I mean, that type of play doesn't happen if that catch is made at the wall. The momentum goes completely the other way for Drake. How great was it specifically to see Anna have a moment like that on Sunday?
Well, and Anna's another sophomore who's been adjusting to the scout, right? And she's been thrown differently, and I think it frustrated her for the first few weeks. And that was like, I think, a huge release of all that emotion for her to finally get one, to go like she wanted. And she was a big part of what we did last year, and she'll be a big part of what we do this year. She almost ripped my hand off at third base, which is hilarious because you almost don't even want to stick your hand out there. But for her just to, I think, finally just get that all out, I think was that you saw that play and you saw all of that emotion and her teammates sort of feeling that for her. But she's going to be a big part of what we do. She's going to be in the middle of the lineup. She's one of the best lefty bats that I've seen. And, she comes to practice every day ready to go. She comes to practice. That's the mood she's in all the time. The kid doesn't have a bad day. And you need those types of players to sort of carry the emotion of the team because there's other people like a Liz Warwick who are very flatline and just want to kind of play ball. But if Anna's going, we're going. And probably, I'm sure people have listened to her mic'd up, but probably one of the most hilarious people on the planet. And happens to be my mom's favorite player. So if Anna's in lineup, which she usually is, my mom's watching. But she's a great human, just a really great human. And when you throw to a catcher like that, you always get some good energy out of it.
Coach, it's one of those areas where I think fans always think it's just a talking point that guys like me make in conjunction with coaches like yourself. But when you prepare for a team like UIC this weekend, the one thing that's never on your scouting reports is what's their record.
Yep.
It's always their numbers, their data, what they've proven in games, all the different trends that you go through. But records that's never even on anybody's mind. When you look at UIC this weekend, what do you like about their team just from a standpoint of what you watch, what you see on film, something tangible that really stands out?
Yeah, I think they can get you in their environment and really frustrate you in terms of they're going to keep the ball down. Ball's not going to get out of the park much. I think they can toggle with their offensive lineup and sort of frustrate you if you're not paying attention defensively. I know we faced them the first game of the conference tournament last year and had not seen them in the regular season, and they absolutely came with a plan. They were on third base before I think we recorded an out. And I think they can, once they get you in a 3-game series, can really focus on you and come with a really good idea of what they want to do. And we saw that on film versus Murray State, and we've seen some of their other stuff. But when they can get you in those 3 games and have a very specific plan, they can execute against you, especially offensively. Their pitching is going to keep the ball into their defense, and if they play defense, you may never get off first base. So we're going to have to be paying attention, get used to their field very quickly. None of our program has ever been to UIC. I think the last time we saw them was when Carrie was here. They came down to our tournament, and they were as good as it gets. So it'll be interesting to get there, get used to them very quickly, get on that field, and get going.
Well, you mentioned getting used to the surroundings in the field, and it's new. I mean, I know Loyola used to be in the league, but they were more on the northern side of Chicago. So at least from, weather dealing with it, some of your program has dealt with it, but it'll be obviously all new. But that's an uncontrollable in a way, too. You preach all the time, control what you can control. What's really the biggest thing from trying to get your team acclimated to those new surroundings, but whether it's 55 and sunny, whether you got to deal with some snow, whatever the conditions are, just got to go out and you got to play the game and play it the best way you can.
Yeah, I think it was evident in our Texas State series. This team can really, if you told them, hey, we're playing at 2 o'clock in the morning, they would be ready to go. If we're playing at 8 in the morning, we'll be ready to go. I do find that this team is just looking to get on the field. So I'm hoping with some issues with weather probably on Friday and maybe some temperature issues on Saturday, we'll just go when we say go. I think that's the most important part. And we've got some cold weather players. I mean, Nebraska is Nebraska, so, but we've also got some warm weather players. So, it'll be interesting. I think we're looking forward to, I used the words deep dish pizza at practice and everybody lost their mind. So, if we're paying attention and, we get comfortable quick, especially on the mound, I think we'll be great.
Well, the weekend starts on Friday. Right now, 5 o'clock first pitch, and then Saturday will be at 2. Sunday will be at noon in the Windy City. Coach, get all 3 games in this weekend. Let's try to get all 3 of them in, but continue this hot start to the league play. As it's a hot start, you want to make sure that it's hot as it goes throughout the year. We really appreciate the time, Coach Sewell.
Thanks, Luke.